Have you ever considered the implications of genetic testing on unique cultural communities, notably the deaf community? Begin by glancing back at history, where deafness-related research was primarily aimed at the elimination of deafness using medical technologies and genetic engineering. The eugenics movement in the late 19th to mid-20th century, which spanned across the United States, Great Britain, and Germany, controversially permitted sterilization of deaf individuals in an attempt to reduce societal burdens and enhance human health through better breeding. Another notable movement, oralism, championed by Alexander Graham Bell, prioritized speech over sign language, leading to the use of speech reading and hearing amplification. Advancements in medical technologies, like the success of hearing aids and cochlear implants, have cemented society's perception of deafness as a disability, rather than recognizing it as a distinct cultural identity. The deaf community has been shaped by these historical movements and technologies, leading to a unique cultural identity. Despite the well-intentioned efforts to mitigate or prevent hearing loss, there's a palpable fear within the deaf community about the advancement of genetic testing and engineering. This fear is unique and deeply rooted in the community's cultural identity. It's not about the fear of the unknown or the fear of technology, but rather the fear of losing an integral part of their identity. Historically, deafness has been seen by the majority of society as a disability, a problem to be fixed. However, for the deaf community, it's a unique feature, a characteristic that defines them and brings them together. It's part of their culture, like skin color or sexual orientation. When genetic testing and engineering come into play, it becomes a matter of cultural preservation. The deaf community is not against scientific progress or medical advancements. However, they are concerned about the potential implications of these advancements. Genetic engineering, in particular, brings forth the possibility of eliminating deafness altogether. Imagine a world where a cultural group is at risk of being wiped out, not by war or disease, but by science and technology. The fear stems from the lack of engagement and dialogue with the deaf community about these advancements. They rarely have the opportunity to express their views, their fears, and their concerns. This lack of communication fuels fear and increases the sense of threat. The fear is not unfounded. Approximately 3/4 of the identified deaf genes are recessive, meaning a high proportion of deaf individuals are born to hearing parents. With the advancement of genetic engineering, it's possible for these parents to prevent the birth of a deaf child. This could lead to a significant reduction in the number of congenitally deaf individuals. The deaf community fears that such a reduction could threaten the viability of their culture. They fear that their language, their traditions, and their community could be lost. This is why the advancement of genetic testing and engineering is seen as a threat rather than progress. The fear of genetic testing and engineering within the deaf community is a real and present concern. The potential loss of future deaf individuals has major implications for the viability of deaf culture. This is a matter of cultural identity and preservation. The deaf community, like any other cultural group, has its own unique traits and traditions that are passed down from generation to generation. In the deaf community, this is often through what's known as horizontal cultural transmission, largely through peer exchanges and deaf schools. Unlike other cultural groups, where parents primarily transmit language and cultural values to their children, deaf culture often flourishes among peers and in educational settings. Now imagine this cultural fabric being threatened by the advancing science of genetic testing and engineering. This isn't just a distant sci-fi concept, but a palpable reality for the deaf community. Genetic testing, in its quest to eliminate diseases and disabilities, could potentially wipe out the unique identity and culture of the deaf community. And the fear is not unfounded. Many of the genes associated with deafness are recessive, meaning that a large proportion of deaf individuals are born to hearing parents, and these parents, unfamiliar with deaf culture, may opt for genetic interventions to prevent their child from being deaf. This unfamiliarity extends beyond parents to clinical providers and medical researchers. There's a gap in understanding, a disconnect between the medical perception of deafness as a disability and the deaf community's view of it as a cultural identity. This lack of familiarity and understanding can lead to cultural misunderstandings and could potentially jeopardize the future of deaf culture. But it's not all doom and gloom. This challenge also presents an opportunity for dialogue, for inclusive research, for awareness, and for understanding. It's a chance to bridge the gap between the medical world and the deaf community, to ensure that the march of science doesn't trample upon cultural identities. In conclusion, the fear of genetic engineering within the deaf community is not just a matter of personal or health concern, but a significant cultural and community issue. It's about preserving a rich cultural heritage, embracing diversity, and ensuring that every voice, or in this case every sign, is heard and respected, and